These women are just some of the 66 killed in Australia by partners or ex-partners in 2015. Family violence, particularly against women and children, affected tens of thousands more. 2015 saw the issue plastered across the headlines, but encouragingly, community discussion did not end there. Many community groups sought to raise awareness of violence against women and children across the country in an effort to change attitudes and save lives. St Stephen's Anglican Church in Gardenvale hosted one such event where organisers aimed to encourage the local community to join the conversation about how to stop family violence and build a safer world for all.
So we're here tonight because, in a way, we have woken up. We as a community have woken up to this terrible prevalence of violence. It's always been here, but until very recently it's been hidden. It's been in the shadows, a private affair that people didn't talk about. But we've woken up to the fact that actually the scale of this is much larger than we could ever have imagined. But the good news is that although we may have found out that the issue is larger than what we thought, also the response is now larger than it ever has been before. And in order for us to work together to end violence against women, we all need to be better informed. And that's very much what tonight is about.
Rachel Elliard, who recently helped conduct the Victorian Royal Commission on Family Violence, said that the one key thing to remember is that family violence is not limited to a particular social background, ethnic group or education level.
Family violence doesn't discriminate, it can occur anywhere. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, how much education you've got. Everyone is at risk of being a perpetrator, everyone's at risk of being a victim. So when we think about the system that responds to family violence, in the end we're talking about everybody. We're talking about GPs, we're talking about schools, childcare centres, community legal centres, community groups, anywhere where people might go to be safe, churches most definitely. We're all in the system in the end. We're all in it together, to quote a hideous Australian songwriter from about 10 years ago. And we've all got a role to play. And so when we think about how we're going to fix the system, the reality is that we're talking about, to some extent, fixing the whole of society and completely reorienting the way we understand family violence.
With public awareness of family violence at an all-time high in Australia, Kay Swanton from Violence Free Families said it was important that we make headway today or risk exposing another generation of women and children to these insufferable crimes.
What I'm observing though, and what I'm becoming increasingly concerned about, is that public awareness is going up, which is fantastic. Reporting of incidences is going up, and that's absolutely as we need it to be. But the actual incidences of family violence are not going down. And my concern, and the concern of Violence Free Families, is that if we don't pay attention to that space, we might miss another generation or two of opportunity to do something about interventions at the tertiary end.
Alison Wainwright from Family Life said that family violence was at a peak in Australia. This was not only a concern in terms of women victims, but also their children, who can suffer a range of psychological issues from being exposed to such behaviours.
The good news, the really good news is that children can be supported. And we know that with the right structure and nurturing, we can see a different outcome for children and women who have experienced family violence. The challenge is that we as the formal services that you would normally see as providing that service, can't do it in isolation. We really need partnerships with communities to drive that kind of response to families. What we know is that when there is a family violence incident, when something happens in one of our suburbs, there is a response that kicks in, a professional response. But really long term, that system has a very limited capacity to heal people who've experienced violence. That's where we rely on yourselves as community to assist us.
These kind of community efforts will need to involve long-term work across multiple areas in order to effect the societal change that is needed, said family violence researcher Peter Strecker.
Preventing violence against women or family violence is going to take at least one generation, maybe two generations, before we start to see a big impact. In order to have that long-term change, you need to go beyond the 3 or 4 year political cycles and get commitment, which I think we've done now with family violence. There's great support across the political spectrum. So what can we do? We need to have a very long-term coordinated approach. We need everyone in the community to work on this, not just the people that we've heard from already, not just the people who are at the forefront of this difficult topic. The 4 things that we need to do to have large-scale change in this area in the prevention field is to challenge everything that condones violence against women and children. We need to promote women's independence in decision making. We also need to challenge traditional gender stereotypes and roles. You know, only men can do this and only women can do that, because that stops gender equality from taking place. And we need to do a lot of work to strengthen positive, equal relationships. We also got to withstand a lot of the attacks on people who speak up. If you go onto any newspaper article that's online about family violence, you'll see the trolls coming out, the people who make really nasty comments. We've got to be aware of tokenism. In case you can't read that, it says evolution may be a good idea, but how will we fund it? Sometimes governments throw a little bit of money at it and think that that's the answer to it. We need a much bigger response than that.
We need to make a difference, and we can make a difference, and that's the hope. It's disconcerting to hear so much of this stuff, and we need to read it. It's very confronting to read it and to listen and hear the stories, but there's also enormous hope that we can take away from tonight. Each of us in our own small corner can make a difference.